The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good day. Thank
Hi.
you for joining us. We are Lee Rochelle with PROFITsystems Customer Relations, and I've also got a partner with me, Jamie, who's going to introduce himself. Our goal today is to share some exciting thoughts on how to get ready for market. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie. I've been with the company for a couple years now. I'm the implementation specialist. Before I started working at PROFITsystems, I was a regional director over pharmacies, and before that I was an office manager at a furniture store.
So we're experts.
That's right. You're going to learn everything today.
I spent 22 years running furniture stores and then a period of time as a consultant in the field. So when I refer to dealers we've talked to, dealers we've spoken with, dealers that we've worked with, these are real-world experiences that we've had with individuals in the industry. Thank you for joining us. The core element of what you're going to get out of our presentation today is wrapped up in our market presentation guide, our market guide. This market success kit is an item that we're going to talk about in detail a little more toward the end of the presentation. What we want to discuss today with you is why we should have a plan and how to prepare for market using the tools that we've provided in the market kit. You will get a copy of this kit as a result of your participation in the webinar, as well as there'll be a link for you to download it available to you as well. Part of what we're working on here is to get a head start on your market planning, and we're talking about what should you be focusing on at market. We're going to be talking about how to know what you're after, know your winners, know your losers, and we're going to talk about an opportunity for you to maybe step outside the box in the way you normally would run your store or your operation and take advantage of the inventory you have on hand to take a pocket full of cash to market.
You know, this is interesting that you bring that up because a big part of what we get, especially with our call volume around this time, is we get a lot of people coming in asking for inventory information in preparation for market. So that's part of what we're going to be talking about here today. So first things first, why do you go to market? So what we're going to say with that is there's a few answers to that we get a lot. The first one is to see and buy what's new and hot. Second answer would be to visit your current vendors, of course. You want to maintain those relationships. And then, of course, another big one, the third one, is to network. You know, you want to get yourself out there. And all of those are fine. You know, those are all really good answers, and we're going to touch on some of those. But really what we want to say, your number one goal to going to market is to replace your losers. But, of course, where do you want to start? Now, take a look at that picture. I mean, I hope that none of you have a warehouse that looks like that, because that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want to have a warehouse full of dogs, full of, you know, things that are just not performing, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So looking at this quote, what you want to see is if you're doing the same thing every time you're going to market, then you're not going to get anything else out of it, because really what you put into it is what you get out of it. So having said that, if you change nothing, nothing will change. And that's what we're trying to avoid once again, because so many times, you know, that when people are going to these markets, they're always doing the same thing every time. They're getting the same types of product, and they're not thinking outside the box. So that's what we're trying to help you and push you toward with this webinar.
And as a retailer, I've probably been to something in the neighborhood of 60 different markets. And I can vouch for the fact that I fell into the very same trap. I had kind of my schedule of activities that I did. There were certain things that I wanted to accomplish, or thought I wanted to accomplish, and they all fell within a comfort zone. They all fell within this area of, I'm going to get on a plane, I'm going to go to High Point, I'm going to meet some of my vendors, I'll meet up with some associates in the industry, my networking. Maybe I'll stop into the resource center and take a look at some of the advertising things that are going on. And it was a bit of a plan, and yeah, I had the market guide with me, and there were some things I was going to take care of relative to looking at new product. But our goal here is to get you to possibly take a different look at the way you would go after market.
Kind of avoid that status quo, essentially.
to quit repeating what I've been doing. And so there's 3 questions that we put together that we would certainly want to have answers to before we get ready to go to market. What's selling and what's not selling? And we've got some tools in our kit that we're going to talk about a little bit later that will talk to you in terms of what you might be looking at focusing on. Do I have an open to buy? And there's a number of ways to calculate open to buy, but part of the kit that you're going to get will have a calculator in there for you to determine whether or not you have an open to buy by category, by vendor, however you want to make that measurement. And what do my customers want? And I think this is an important piece of the puzzle because many times we look at trade magazines, we do, we talk amongst ourselves as industry experts, and we decide we need to be looking at this, we need to be looking at that. So we're going to give you some tools on how to take a look at what the customers are looking for. What is it that they come into your store in your demographic, in your target audience, and they're not finding something that they're looking for. So what we need is a plan. And certainly the first part of the plan is what's selling and what's not selling. We need to determine where the winners and losers are. And again, if you've been exposed to this kind of activity in the past, my mantra is always, we're going to manage by exception. So how do I determine where my winners and losers are? Those of you who may have been exposed to some of this information in the past, we live and breathe by this number here at Profit Systems, GMROI, gross margin return on inventory or investment. Because it's an indicator of what's working. Rather than looking at the micro view item by item, I can look at a category and know right away this category is performing pretty well. Don't need to spend a lot of time there. This category is underperforming. And so that whole process of determining what's working, what's not working, gives me an opportunity then to zero in, okay, I need to figure out what's not working. That's where I need to spend my energy.
Now this one here is a pretty big one because it seems like it always seems to work out this way where just about 80% of product is just not performing. And so what we're trying to say here is that this is where your main focus needs to be. Your attention needs to be on the 80% of the inventory that has not sold yet. Yet is the big indicator here because that's how we're going to free up some cash.
And so excuse me, got a frog in my throat. And so the focus is on the 80%. The 80% is the inventory that's not performing. And what that may mean is I might have sold it a time or two. It still isn't participating in my predominant gross margin dollars, or I may never have sold it at all. And so I have to determine whether or not I have an open to buy. Many of you have worked through some kind of a schedule to determine an open to buy, but you want to identify whether you have money to buy inventory. I can't go to market and expect to put new merchandise on my floor if I haven't freed up cash to do that with. I don't want to be borrowing money to buy new inventory. Determine how much money you have to buy inventory, and that calculator that's part of the kit is going to give you the answer to that. And make the decisions regarding whether you invest those funds based on your GMROI. In other words, there's a basic rule in retailing that we don't want to run out of our winners. We understand that, but they're paying their own way. I've got some dating involved, and they're pretty much paying their own way. What I'm trying to do here is focus on where do I come up with some cash? Where do I come up with some cash to replace that 80% that needs help? It's just plugging up my bank account, it's plugging up my floor, and it's not giving me the performance that I need.
Also, to touch on that, for our Profit Systems clients in Retail Vantage actually allows you to obtain this information based on an item, based on the whole vendor, or based on an entire category level to show the specific GMROI based on those parameters. These items are calculated on demand, so that's something really important to make note of. So then, speaking on that, of course, how do you free up your cash? So we've got a few things here to consider. We get questions all the time asking how to find old inventory. These are the things that we have answers to, but we're not just going to give you the answer and then boom, you're done. Keep in mind that we're in the furniture business too, so we want you to succeed. So to get started, what we're going to say is about a month before each market, take everything that is over a year old and have a block party with it. What we mean by that is you're going to want to dress them up. You're going to want to price them at a number that no one can resist. Think of yourself as like the Godfather, for instance. You're going to make them an offer that they can't refuse. So those are the first two big steps to really consider.
In addition, you might take those items that are not selling, move them to the front of the store, dress them up, and of course price them at a number that no one can resist. Now this is a short-term solution to freeing up some cash. What we're trying to encourage you to give some thought to is, I'd love to go to market with a pocket full of cash this time instead of a lean checkbook and a big AP balance out there that I have to take care of before I even get back off the plane to get home. Certainly you'd want a year-long plan of managing your old inventory, and if you are a PROFITsystems user, you have an opportunity to do that on a regular basis where the system is aging the inventory and giving you red flags. These are the items that you need to make decisions on. Certainly, twice a year for a month is not going to create the kind of cash flow that you're looking for to be successful at market. But we want you to think about this for right now. If I haven't done it in the past, maybe this is an opportunity for me to just say, hey, you know what, you're right. If it's over a year old, it's going to be out of style very quickly anyway if it's not now, and I need to, I can free up some cash.
So here's a shout to our PROFITsystems customers as well, to kind of speak on the tools that we have available to you right now. Feel free to give us a call. I mean, we'll help you with this. We'll help you understand what your GM ROI is, where to find your winners, where to find your losers. Just to give you a few examples, the tools in Retail Vantage, we've got the Delivered Sales Performance Report. That's going to help you calculate your GM ROI. The Purchase Advice Report, that's going to help you to replace your current winners and see where your opportunities are. And then, of course, going back to the freeing up some cash, the Markdown Sales Price List, what that does is that helps you to get rid of some of those losers or those dogs. That way you can actually free up that cash. And that way when you're going to market, not only do you know you're open to buy, but you actually have the cash on hand and you're ready to make educated decisions.
The other part of this equation is, what should I be shopping for? And I think this is an interesting exercise. If you're doing something like this in your store, you may be doing an exercise kind of like what I used to do. We'd have sales meetings every Saturday, and we would sit down as we got closer to market and interview the salespeople and say, so what do you think we should have? What do you think we should have? And I fell into this trap as well, where the salespeople will typically repeat back to me what they've heard in the last 4 or 5 days, maybe the last 2 or 3 suggestions that the customers had. It needs to be more scientific than that. We have an opportunity to take a sales team and engage them as a partner in the store in finding out what it is the customers want. We can get the customers involved, and there's some tools available in the kit that are going to allow you to print out some documents, some comment cards that are going to give the customer an opportunity to write down what they want, may possibly participate in a prize each month. And this is something you can be doing for a period of time, 3 or 4 months before each market, so that you've got a time frame involved that incorporates enough information that you can start taking a look at the data and say, oh, look, there's a pattern here. Certainly we want to pay attention to the trade publications. They're going to be showing us what's new and exciting out there. Keep in mind, a lot of what we see in the trades on our end doesn't show up in Cosmopolitan or Southern Living or any of those magazines for another 6 months or so. So if you're in a market, and in my retail experience was right up I-75 in Michigan, Ohio, we were those folks who, about the time Mauve was getting discontinued by the manufacturers, it was starting to catch on with our client base. And so it was always important to be tuned into the client and find out what it is they like. I might have to scratch around a bit and find things that have been out there for a while because they've finally gotten used to seeing them in a magazine, and they're finally, in this conservative demographic, they're finally ready to say, okay, I'll do Mauve. And so looking at the trade publications, I've seen the mistake made. I've made the mistake of putting that hot fashion statement out on the floor, and people come into my store and go, oh my God, what are you doing here? Are you changing your whole store around? What's going on here? So be tuned into what the consumer is comfortable with. And in each market it's different. Larger markets tend to have a bit more sophisticated, more well-traveled consumers. Smaller markets, you got to be a little more careful in some cases. Unless you're in Los Alamos, where everybody's, it's a small market, but everybody's very, very well educated and very well tuned into what's going on in the marketplace. Shop your competition. And I want to spend just a moment on this because I used to do it all the time, and I had folks do it to me. My sense of it, and each of you may have a different view of this, but my sense of it is when I shop competition, I'm going to shop them with full disclosure. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to ask to speak with the owner or manager if they're available. Ask for permission to walk through the store. Some people are going to tell you no. Most people don't care. If you do this and you take the opportunity to compliment them on the fact that you're well aware of their position in the marketplace and you've heard a lot about their store, just curious to see what's going on, I'm in the neighborhood. What you're looking for, though, you're not looking for ways to build your business. You're not looking for ways to improve your methodology or your operating procedures or things of that nature. What you're looking for when you're shopping the competition is, what does the display look like? What catches your eye? What's working in this marketplace that somebody else is doing? You might find a collection on the floor that you didn't buy and ask the salespeople, gee, I saw this in the showroom and I didn't make a decision on it. What do you think? Has this been working for you? Or you might find one that you did buy that they're also demonstrating and see that they've displayed it totally differently and ask and see if it's being successful. And compare that with your own experience. The idea here is to get outside the woods, to get outside of the forest. It's one thing to climb the tallest tree and look around within your own forest. It's another to get in the car, drive over to the redwoods and take a look over there, see what's going on over there. And I think this is important. A gentlemanly, professional demeanor among retailers is an opportunity that's available to most people. In the communities that I lived in, I would have lunch with competitors all the time. It was just part of what the culture that was created in those communities. So think about that in terms of getting ideas. Sometimes we're just not big enough to have a whole great big team of people working on it and brainstorming. We need to do this by ourselves. And taking a look at the competition, sometimes it can open up a lot of doors. What we're going to talk about here is how to get our customers involved. They are a key resource in terms of giving us some information on how to go to market. What are they looking for?
One other thing with what Lee was talking about is when you're engaging with your customers, from my perspective, the way that I look at that as a consumer is, if I have people from the store asking me, well, what do you want to see in this store? What that does is that makes me feel like I'm invested. It makes me feel like not only am I'm already in the store, but they're actually listening to what I have to say. So, of course, you can't please everybody, but it certainly makes them feel more important, which, of course, is really what they're looking for. So now you've freed up your cash, so you have you've gone through the open to buy, you've engaged with your customers, you've engaged with your employees. So now you're ready to go to market, but you need to know, well, how do I budget my time once I'm at market? So the first thing, of course, is time is money. So here's a really nice looking watch on the screen that I want really bad. And so what this shows you is when you're there, this is your time to really maximize what you're there to accomplish. So our goal here is to emphasize your real focus. So you're already there, and what you need to remember is that 80% that we were talking about before that's not selling, that requires 80% of your time at market to be replaced. So that way you can really kind of keep yourself focused on what the task is at hand, because you don't want to go there and kind of, like we talked about before, get back into the status quo, do what you always do. This is your time to really change that and start doing things a little bit differently from the way that you've done in the past. So to speak more with that, this is the general rule that we want you to consider. With that 80% that is just not performing, that deserves 80% of your time, and with that time, you're looking at new product. This is the product that you're going to replace those items that just were not performing before. You had the block party, you freed up some cash. With that cash, it's getting replaced. That's where your focus needs to be. But of course, that's not all your focus, because you still have existing vendors that are performing really well. So you can't just ignore those because you're focused on replacing what didn't work in the past. So keeping this in mind, it's up to you to keep yourself on point. This is a business trip, so this is what you really need to keep in the back of your mind, so that way you don't have to worry about doing what you've always done in the past.
I can't emphasize enough when there were a group of us working on this information, and when we started getting this out in front of us, and as a retailer I can remember thinking about, there was that comfort zone about going to market and all the things I was going to do and who I was going to have lunch with and all those kinds of things. And this really hit me right between the eyes, because I got to thinking, really, this is what I should have been doing. And in some cases, I was pretty good at it. I was making an effort, but I'm going to tell you, it was 20 or 30% of my time looking for new product. Think about what your floor will reflect if you really do spend 80% of your time looking for brand new merchandise. Keep in mind, we're competing with the internet, we're competing with big box retailers, folks that are grinding through this merchandise fast, fast, fast. They're showing the customer something new all the time. And here we are with our 15, 30,000 square foot store, and she's seen the same sofa every time she's come in there for the last 2 years. We need to be doing something with our merchandise mix that satisfies the customer's interest based on the surveys and the information that we're getting back from them, but it's new, it's different. I don't want to scare them away, I've done that. But we want to make sure that we're spending the vast majority of our time making that floor. When we come back from market, we want that floor to pop. We want it to show the customer that we're invested in getting them new and fresh and great ideas. Give them a reason to come back into this store.
All right, so recipe for success. We've gone through just about everything at this point. You're totally prepared, so now it's actually time to act. Kind of going back to what we were saying before, keeping yourself on point. You want to be on a mission when you're there. You are totally focused, you're zoned in, and here we go. So you're on a mission once you're there. You're going to know your numbers. In fact, with that, for a lot of our clients who are in the cloud environment, we actually have them sitting in the showroom looking up more information in case they don't have answers to any specific questions. So they've made all the preparations that they possibly could, but maybe it's, a curveball has been thrown at them. So they have their laptop or they have their tablet, and they are actually logging into their software, getting this information that they need right on the fly. So having access to your data at your fingertips while at market is a key to really being successful while you're there.
And that planning book that you put together, either you got it from the market website, from Furniture Today, or wherever it is that you've got your list of vendors, think about looking at that book a little differently than we have in the past. Think about going through that book and try to find things. I can remember when Four Hands was all set up in a hallway in High Point, and they were building cocktail tables out of cathedral doors or whatever they were. They were used lumber out of Mexico. And everybody thought, gee, that's kind of a clever concept. Well, look at where they're at now. I bought some of that product, and I struggled to get my consumer to understand the value and understand the history and so forth, but it finally started to catch on in our marketplace as well. But the idea is, I had to go there. I saw them in the book, and I thought, this is weird. I need to see what it is they've got, and it turned into a winner for us, and certainly a winner for them. So when you're looking through your book and you're drawing your little map, and I'm going to go here on Monday, and I'm going to go here on Saturday, be thinking all the time, I'm really weak in whatever it is, dining room, casual dining. I mean, I've got the floor space dedicated to it. I've got good vendors, and I'm not performing in casual dining. And maybe what your customer is telling you is they never come to you for casual dining. I wish you had more dark, formal dining. I wish you had more cherry dining. I wish you had more. And so taking that information that you've got from the customer and incorporating it into your search pattern for, heading out into market and going through that book a little differently than maybe you have in the past. The goal, come back with a new, fresh store, absolutely. So what's in the kit? Big part of what you will get out of this participation today is a link to a series of downloads that include a step-by-step guide and some interactive tools for you to answer some of the questions that we've talked about, but there's some really cool things in there as well. I think we've got a list of them coming up here. There's a market success guide. I think you're going to find this to be an interesting tool in determining how to budget your time and how to get ready for market. There's a planning worksheet, which things have been done, which things need to be done. We've also given you a GMROI and open to buy calculator. Those spreadsheets are with instructions are included in the kit. They give you an opportunity to plug the numbers in, make your adjustments, take a look at what the result is, come back and adjust, and so they can give you an idea of whether or not I have an open to buy and whether or not this particular category or product or vendor is performing. There's a customer feedback sheet. This is something that you will be able to incorporate on your sales floor so that your salespeople can keep a list of the comments they're hearing from customers in preparation for market. Rather than just remembering a few of them off the top of their head at a sales meeting, we're giving you a tool that you can incorporate into your sales management routine that gives them an opportunity to jot down what the customers are telling them, and possibly you can turn this into a contest, and there's some instructions in the market success guide about how you might take a look at that as well. There's a customer feedback card and poster templates that you can plug your logo into that encourages the consumer to get involved in this process. And as a sales manager, I can tell you that one of the most difficult processes to get salespeople involved in is how to get them to start a conversation with the customer that gets past, oh, I'm sorry, we're just looking. And you probably all have had opportunity to participate in some kind of sales training that addresses this. But here's now another opportunity, an opportunity for you to walk up to the consumer, your salespeople to walk up to the consumer, even that aloof, I'm just looking individual, and say, hey, you know what, I wonder if you'd be interested in helping us in a little project we've got going on. Here's an opportunity for you to greet the customer in such a way that you're engaging them, you're asking them to be involved in the future of your business. And as Jamie said, I don't think there's anything that's more stimulating to an individual than for you to ask them their opinion. We've also included a Facebook customer feedback campaign guide. If you're on Facebook, and a lot of folks are, typically they're not aggressively using Facebook to engage the customer, and here's an opportunity for you to get something in front of you that's going to address how to manage a Facebook campaign that encourages participation on the part of the customer. 2 points. Number one, it gets you more action on your Facebook page, which certainly is what part of your goal there. And number two, there's some valid information that will come back to you, giving you, again, another opportunity to find out what the consumer is looking for. At this time, if you have questions about what we've discussed or what is in the kit, you are most welcome to use the question insert box on the webinar page, and you can take an opportunity to type questions in there, and we'll take those if any of you folks have a question that hasn't been answered. We certainly appreciate your taking the time out of your day to participate in our little presentation here. I hope that it's stimulated some thought about what might be a good preparation for going to market.
Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you all for participating. We certainly appreciate it. Have a great day.